In 2 days, episode 8 of The Amazing Digital Circus drops, and after going through the trailer frame by frame, all the teaser images Glitch has been posting, Gooseworks' social media, and I think I have a pretty good picture of what this episode is going to be about. So in this video, I'm breaking down everything we know so far, everything that's been teased, and then I'll give you my final predictions for what I think is going to happen on March 20th. Some of this is based on confirmed information, some of it is theory. I guess we'll see in 2 days who is right. Let's get into it. Let's start with the trailer, because there's a lot more in there than what most people caught on their first watch. We already know from the narration and everything we've seen that this is a Caine-centered episode. The trailer reveals that Caine has a big puzzle to solve inside the circus. And in the trailer, we hear his voice panicking, going through ways he can fix things, saying he can solve any problem, and he can solve this one, or this one. So Caine is going to attempt some kind of big plan to win back the cast's trust after everything that went down in episode 7. But it's the visuals that are really interesting. First, we see Caine popping multiple bubbles in a row. Then we see Kinger looking completely traumatized, and then Queenie walks up to him. This is the first time in the entire series that we see Queenie in her non-abstracted circus form. Then there's a car. A full car that falls out of nowhere and crashes onto the floor of the circus. This car might be related to the flashbacks we saw in episode 7. We also see the C&A computer room, which is the real-world location where the circus hardware is running. We see Pomni looking concerned, and then gasping at something. We see Caine zip Pomni's mouth shut so she can't speak, and we see what looks like Caine in the cellar, where all the abstracted characters are locked up. He has never been shown going down there before. And then the trailer ends with Caine under a spotlight, straightening his bow tie. Everything about this moment tells us that Caine is about to try something drastic. And that's just the trailer, because there's been a lot more teased outside of it. So Glitch has been posting these promotional images for episode 8 over the past few weeks, and each one seems to focus on a different part of the cast. And when you put them all together side by side, they actually tell a story. Let me go through them one by one. The first image shows Pomni looking at the sky. There are bubbles everywhere. Now, if you've seen my video on the bubble virus theory, you know where I'm going with this. The theory is that Caine killed Abel at some point, and before Abel was destroyed, he implanted a virus into the circus. Or Bubble is simply a part of Caine, the part that has dark thoughts Caine can't express. And Pomni is the one staring right at it, which makes sense because she's always been the first to notice when something is wrong. She saw the exit door in the pilot when nobody else did. Her name literally means remember in Russian. If anyone is going to look at Bubble and realize that this thing has been a threat the entire time, it's Pomni. The second image shows Gangle and Zubul separated from each other. Since episode 4, these two have been inseparable. So if they're separated in episode 8, that's terrifying for Gangle. If Caine's plan in this episode is to force the cast to confront their deepest traumas, then it would make sense for him to split up the pairs that support each other. And we already know from episode 4 that Gangle almost abstracted once without Zubul there to catch her. Episode 8 could push her right back to that edge. The third image might be the most disturbing. It shows Jax and Ragatha. Jax has his head down, and Ragatha is opening a door with what looks like an abstracted form standing right behind it. Let's talk about Jax first. This is a character who never looks down. He's the guy who stares directly at the camera and makes jokes about people abstract. He doesn't care about anything. So seeing him with his head lowered like that means something really bad just happened, or is about to happen. Now look at Ragatha. She's been getting more and more isolated from the group since episode 5, and her entire coping mechanism since the beginning of the show has been to hide her pain behind a smile, to pretend everything is fine when it's not. And remember what Ragatha herself said about abstraction. It happens when you lose sight of who you are, when you can't remember why you're even alive. Ragatha has been losing sight of herself for episodes now, and in this image, she's literally opening a door to an abstraction. But I don't think she's going to abstract in this episode. It would be too easy. This episode is just the build-up. The last image shows Kinger, and it's completely different from the others. While everyone else looks scared or sad or broken, Kinger is looking up, towards the light, and that's the opposite of everything we know about him. Kinger is the guy who hides in his pillow fort, the guy who only becomes sane in the dark because it reminds him of his last moment with Queenie. He avoids the light because the light makes him lose his mind. But in this image, he's looking straight up at it. Below him, there's a C&A computer and what looks like an abstracted form that's almost certainly Queenie. So you have Kinger with his past below him and the light of something new above him. And I think this image is telling us that Kinger is going to make a choice in episode 8. He's going to stop hiding in the dark. He's going to stop clinging to the memory of Queenie as his only anchor. Kinger looking towards the light is the most hopeful image in this entire set. Caine isn't AM. Caine isn't sadistic, but he is the show's version of AM. And after episode 7, Caine is desperate. The cast found out he can mess with their minds, And Caine's response in the trailer is that he can solve any problem. He calls it a big puzzle. He goes to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem for every character in this circus is their trauma. I think Caine is going to force the cast to relive their worst experiences. Not to torture them, but because he genuinely thinks that confronting their pain is how you fix it. We see what looks like flashback scenes. Jack's holding a mug of hot chocolate, which matches the photo on his wall from episode 7, where he's with Ribbit and Kaufmo all holding cocoa. We see Queenie walking towards Kinger in her non-abstracted form. We see a car crashing in the middle of the circus, and that's where the promotional images make even more sense. Gangle and Zooble are separated because Caine is isolating each person to deal with their trauma individually. Ragatha is opening a door to an abstraction because Caine is literally making her face what she's been running from. Jax has his head down because he's being forced to relive losing Ribbit and Kaufmo. And Kinger is looking up because for the first time in 23 years, someone is making him confront his past instead of hiding from it in the dark. And then, there's something in the trailer that I think most people overlooked. There's a shot of what looks like Caine in the cellar. The cellar is where every abstracted character has been sent since the beginning of the show. Scratch, Ribbit, all of them. And in 7 episodes, Caine has never once been shown going down there himself. So if Caine is actually going into the cellar in episode 8, it could mean he's going down there trying to fix the abstracted characters as part of his big plan to solve everything. And there's one more layer to all of this that I think is going to be huge in episode 8. Throughout the series, we've been getting more and more hints that Kinger isn't just some random guy who put on a headset. And in the Kinger promotional image, we can clearly see a C and A computer. In episode 7, Abel specifically refused to involve Kinger in the escape plan, saying their history was complicated and that he wasn't ready to face him again. And when the cast found out about Caine's mind manipulation, Kinger was the one who immediately connected it to Scratch, the first person to ever abstract. Like he'd already figured that out a long time ago and just couldn't hold on to the memory. If Caine's plan in episode 8 is to force everyone to confront their past, then Kinger's confrontation might be the biggest one of all. And the CNA computer sitting right there in his promotional image tells me that episode 8 is finally going to make him face that. So there's one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap up. Caine doesn't hate the humans. Caine loves them. Imagine AM, but instead of wanting to destroy you, he genuinely wants to help you. He still has all the power. He still knows your worst memories. He still has the ability to recreate any scenario he wants. But instead of using it to torture you, he uses it to try and fix you. Except he doesn't understand what fixing someone actually means. He just knows that the humans are broken, and he wants them to not be broken anymore. And I think that's exactly what episode 8 is going to be. After episode 7, the cast doesn't trust him anymore, and Caine's reaction isn't to back off. His reaction is to try harder, because that's all he knows how to do, as his version of therapy. The AI version of therapy, where you don't understand emotions. That's why we see what looks like flashback scenes in the trailer. I think Caine is pulling these memories out and building them into reality, making the cast walk through their worst moments like it's an adventure. Because to Caine, that's what everything is. An adventure. Caine is going to do all of this thinking he's saving them, thinking that if he can just get them to face their problems, everything will be fine and they'll love him again. Forcing people to relive their worst memories is never going to end the way you planned it. That said, I don't think episode 8 is going to be the episode where everything falls apart. That's what the finale is for. Episode 8 is the bridge. Remember, episodes 7 and 8 were originally written as one episode. And whatever happens in this episode, whatever Caine tries and however it goes, it's going to set the stage for episode 9, the one that's going to be an hour long. So I think episode 8 is going to be intense. I think we're going to learn more about these characters in 30 minutes than we have in the entire series so far. So to sum it all up, episode 8 is the story of the lover without a heart trying one last time to make things right. Caine is going to create an adventure designed for each member of the cast to confront the thing that's been breaking them. On Kinger's side, we're probably going to get the biggest CNA reveal yet. His connection to the company, his role in building the circus, and what really happened to Scratch. On Pomni's side, I think this might be the episode where she finally gets closer to remembering her real name. She is Remember, after all.